Your college graduation day should be a celebration, but Jared's graduation day felt empty. He confessed to his pastor, "I think it's because I cheated in every class. I learned that with AI and Google, I didn't really need to learn anything at all. The only thing I deserve a degree in is working the digital system." Of course, cheating is immoral, but that's a topic for a different video. For our purposes, we have to confess that Jared's confession was deeply insightful about the purpose of education and educational institutions. They don't exist merely to dispense information. They exist to train us how to learn. One of the last century's most respected experts on pedagogy, John Dewey, observed an experience in education. Perhaps the greatest of all pedagogical fallacies is the notion that a person learns only when he is studying at the time. Collateral learning in the way of formation of enduring attitudes may be and often is more important than the spelling lesson or lesson in geography or history, for these attitudes are fundamentally what count in the future. He's right, of course. The reason why employers prefer college-educated workers isn't because they come preloaded with knowledge. In fact, most businesses provide robust on-the-job training to supplement the information they know college grads lack. They prefer college grads for more prosaic reasons. You must be able to work hard and learn well to graduate. Those are the valuable skills college develops and proves, or they used to be. Jared's far from alone. While he's personally morally culpable for his decisions, I can't escape the sense that the education system failed him well before he went to college. Indeed, his behavior is precisely what our technologized primary and secondary education systems inadvertently trained him to do. Writing decades before the advent of one-to-one devices in classrooms, Neil Postman bemoaned the introduction of televisions into schools. He rejected the idea that television could be educational, not because it can't disseminate information, of course it can do that, but because it exercises the wrong intellectual muscles. He wrote this: "The most important thing one learns is always something about how one learns. We learn what to do. Television educates by teaching children to do what television viewing requires of them. And that is as precisely remote from what a classroom requires of them as reading a book is from watching a stage show." Of course, in the 1980s when he wrote, a TV could serve only a limited range of purposes. Today's one-to-one devices, however, have become the hub of everything. They replace textbooks. They house teacher-student communication, manage homework, mediate information audio-visually. They organize the learning process and student responsibilities. This is to say nothing of the non-school related distractions one-to-one devices introduce into the classroom, or the amount of AI-driven homework and testing workarounds that most students have learned tremendous fluency in. For example, Apple's Math Notes app can now solve complex math problems for you in your own handwriting. But in the final analysis, the greatest threat to learning isn't what schools give children, it's what parents give them: smartphones. Of course, it doesn't help that most middle schools and high schools long ago stopped restricting smartphone use by students. They've normalized smartphones and, however unintentionally, made them part of the educational milieu. A friend of mine who dared not to give his sixth grader an iPhone and unfettered access to Instagram, he told me that the biggest adjustment his daughter made from elementary school to middle school was technological, because kids couldn't have phones in elementary school, but they could in middle school. And so instead of talking at lunch, students just stared at their phones. His daughter spent 20 long minutes every day speaking to no one, doing nothing, and feeling left out because her school refused to curtail technology use. To state the obvious, screens are different than schools, but schooling is now a highly on-screen experience. Of course, some teachers and administrators hate this, but others love it. Classroom management is easier with screens, and most schools have people whose entire jobs are managing technology, which is demonstrably caused by social media and screen use. They're less able to focus, and they're less well educated than students they had just 10 years earlier. Somewhere along the line, it seems as though we stopped asking, what are schools good for, and instead asked, what is technology good for in school? Rather than technology serving the school began to serve the technology. Of course, no one wants to be a tech curmudgeon asking, are we sure this is good for education? After all, it's very American to believe that technology always makes everything better. It's part of progress, and who wants to stand in the way of the future? But if the price of admission for the future is the mental, social, emotional, and educational welfare of our children, and it is, then I refuse to pay the cost. So here I stand. It's time to get smartphones and one-to-one devices out of primary education. It's time to dramatically curtail their influence in secondary education. Dewey was right. Schools exist to train us how to learn, and learning on a device is certainly a way to learn if you want to learn how to be entertained, how to work digital levers, and how to deploy AI to avoid work, or how to online bully and be antisocial. If If you want that, then by all means, embrace one-to-one devices. This is why I feel a lot of empathy for Jared. We failed him. Jared never learned how to learn. He never learned to love learning for its own sake. Instead, he learned how to work a screen, how to avoid work, and how to fire as few neurons as possible while he's in school. And that was enough to get him through college, apparently. Will it be enough for what comes next in life, though? If you don't believe me, let me enlist the wisdom of a 7-year-old who recently began attending a summer school at an institution that uses one-to-one devices in elementary education. During the academic year, he attended a school without such devices, and so this was his first jaunt into a screen-based learning environment. After the first day, he reported to his dad, "It's not hard at all. It's fun. No one reads anything. We watch videos and stuff. It's super cool." But several weeks in, he wisened up and realized that there was nothing educational about his experience. In fact, he missed learning because he'd already begun to learn the love of learning in a school that didn't have screens. So he walked up to his teacher one morning and said, "Maybe we should put the iPads away. I think we've had enough for today. Let's learn something." Isn't that the goal every day in school? Let's learn something. If we only had the wisdom of a 7-year-old, let's put the iPads away. Christians, we should lead the charge. We are a people of the book. We are students of the great teacher. We should want our children to learn to love learning. To do this, we need not to be anti-technology. Instead, we must take the lead in public by asking, where does technology belong? I don't need an MRI machine in my living room. Likewise, I don't need smartphones and one-to-one devices in elementary schools. Yes, I know that some parents will fear that this will somehow set their kids behind, but fear not. Our technology was designed by the world's best behavioral scientists. Even chimpanzees can use iPads. Your little one will be okay. In the final analysis, which is better? Having a child who's a whiz on a Chromebook but spends his 20s battling with chronic anxiety and depression that screen-based childhoods have been proven to generate? Or having a child with normal computer skills and better than normal mental health? For the sake of our children's mental and social health, we need to push our schools to ban smartphones on their premises. For the sake of our children's mental and social health, we need to push our schools to ban smartphone use on their premises. For the sake of our children's education, we need to train them in how to learn the old-fashioned way, by reading, thinking, discoursing, and writing. Yes, it's less entertaining. Yes, it's harder, but that's the point. We want them to be capable of more than consuming entertaining content. We want them to be capable of more than using AI to solve their problems. We want them to be capable of more than navigating educational platforms. We want them to become complex thinkers and problem solvers who not only know how to learn, but also love learning for its own sake.